to another LinuxGameCast Weekly, the show that covers the latest Linux gaming news, reviews, how-tos, and most importantly, whatever the hell else we come up with. This week, GOG Galaxy 1.2 has arrived, and you guessed it, without Linux support, and Motorhead, through the ages, gets a release date. And that release date is quite sooner than you might think.
Germany removes the nuts from Half-Life. Now you just get blood. And it's finally happening! Shatrealm has taken it upon themselves to fix SDL 1.2.
Feral talks Vulkan, and how they're probably not going to be releasing all Vulkan from now on. And the first reported AMD Vega performance numbers leaked. If it holds up to real-world use, the Radeon Technologies Group may have a competitive GPU.
Sounds like it's going to be brilliant. I'm Vince Stone here at LGC Actual, switching the bits, doing the nightmare fuel all into the Linux sauce, joined by my two partner, well, three really if you count Shatterealm, but the man up north. Hey, check him out. That's,
hello,
that's one Jordan Svang, addicted to
I'm free from Disgaea.
Yes,
I'm free!
And all the way from space, Portugal, with his lovely, lovely penguin. That is one Pedro Montes.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
And Frank the penguin, together with Shatterealm Dynamic, joining us in IRC and our Discord server, helping us form and that last bit known as Cocaine Voltron. See if you can pick that up this time, YouTube. Ha! Before we get started, we like to see what's going on in each other's life organs. Gentlemen, I'm just going to start this off. Finally got all the caching system and all that working for LinuxGameCast.com web zone for the internets, where it's rotating properly and things are updating in like 8-hour increments. So that's cool. You might notice our web zone's a bit faster. Next week, we'll be integrating CDN. And I'm sure everything will be on fire. What's up, Jay Baby?
Oh, speaking of web hosting, I've been getting like crash courses in Nginx and HA proxy, and lo and behold, I'm starting to get reasonably competent at it, which frightens me and terrifies me because I was all like, Apache's my one true love. I'm gonna use it until the end of days. Now I'm fucking an Nginx admin. What about you, Pedro? What's going on? With
well, I haven't
with your hair?
touched Nginx in a couple of months now, so my life, it's not the whole XKCD graph that my life improves as I don't have to look at exarchconf. Actually haven't had to touch that in a while either. No, this week was mostly playing video games, especially the game we're throwing chairs at this week. Yeah.
Well, there's one thing that we definitely touch, nay, grind against every single week, and that's the horse.
Nay, indeed. It's the Steam
Update of the week.
So, Germans have, like, very, very delicate sensibilities, right? The slightest thing you say might set them off, and they'll just get super offended and pissed.
I mean, you kind of had the whole Nazi thing a few years ago.
Well, I mean, I did not see that coming. But anyways, there was a German index of games that could not be sold in a uncensored form because they show quote-unquote questionable materials. And 20, well, not 20, but close to 20 years later, Half-Life, the original one, is finally off. Now, if you're watching the stream version of this, you can see this wonderful little YouTube video of how when a barnacle eats some guy, he spits out springs and bolts and shit. Now, it'll, with the uncensored version, you'll actually see some blood. I just got to imagine the confused ass German gamers who went into like Half-Life 20 years ago, and they're like, "What the hell is this? Why are there robots? Like, why can't I kill people?" And maybe this will help fix things. Hopefully they're just gonna update the Half-Life repos on Steam so that you get the uncensored version if you're living in Germany. Be a real dick move if they made you rebuy it again.
Well, it is, but it's definitely going to turn like the boxed versions into collector's items. I can already see all the people are like, definitely the same type of people who were the Wii U sucked, and like they're not going to sell it anymore. Must buy a Wii U and add it to my retro game. They're going to be out there trying to buy these up, so go ahead and get a copy if you can. But I definitely believe that, it's always nice to see a bit of stupid undone. And this is a bit of stupid that was undone. Not much in a timely manner, though,
No, it wasn't. And Maddie, who asked if Doom and Doom 2 were off the index already. Yes, they've been for a couple of years, actually. The highest profile one before Half-Life was actually Quake. Last year or the year before, when Quake was removed from the index in Germany. So yeah, people could then play the uncut, uncensored version of Quake. Yeah. Well, now I did have a little bit of a look around because I wanted to see if I could find a list of all the games that were indexed. I found one that's from 2007. I don't know if it's been kept up to date or not, but I included the link in the show notes. So drop by if you're curious to see.
So what is up with this?
So this is a Reddit post. This is from our Steam. Links to all this crap's in our show notes. Apparently now, Steam, when you copy links of games and just like the internal links that you can get through the Steam website, instead of that obscure ass game code, you'll actually get the name of the game. Now, this actually is less impressive than it appears. This is just appending some text to the end of a URI because as in Unique Artworks comment points out, you can basically, after the Steam ID, you can basically add anything and it will go to the right place. But I mean, it is nice to have. When you see this ID, you're like, what the hell is this even? At least now you have some human readable format, so so that you don't accidentally end up on Secret of the Magic Crystals, Strider's favorite game in history.
And yeah, you can totally create the Half-Life 3 URL and just redirects to whatever crap game.
Well, I kind of just noticed that this was a thing, and then I found the thread on it later on. For us, it's really handy for the show notes because instead of just having the long list of IDs, like, wait, did I add that in there? It's like, oh, there it is. And of course, now all of them will just say Half-Life 3 confirmed all the way down.
It will now. And finally, my last article for the Steam segment, HTC is opening up their tracking code for their Vive tracker. It's this little thing. You can stick it on an object and swing it around, and your Vive laser grid thing will pick it up. I guess the intention here is that they want people to make some fancy custom controllers for the Vive so that you can have a more immersive VR experience. The problem I see is... I mean, the problem I see with that is VR is enough of an investment. I don't need to go investing in like a VR ready baseball bat or some sort of big floppy 8-inch VR dildo that I can swing around. I don't really see this taking off all that well, but good on them for opening this up. I'm not sure if they're actually open sourcing it. They may just be giving the code to people who are interested. There's no mention of it in the article. Well, they got to do something
because, like we were talking about last week, they kind of realized everybody who was going to buy one of these critters at that price already owns it, and no matter of open source you gave, there's still not like a killer game, man.
No, there isn't. There is no game that couldn't work in a regular display that is made better with VR. In fact,
I'm saying it right here. VR dildos. All the way.
You could still do it with a regular monitor and have someone come in from behind you and just slap you with a dildo. But
tell us more about your fantasies, Pedro.
Shh. No, it's good to see HTC opening up. It's like, oh yeah, we are probably not doing so well when it comes to money, so how about we open up the sauce and let everyone else do the R&D for us, and if we see something that's kind of useful, we'll totally just pay them and say, no, we own that now.
You're adorable. You think they're gonna pay them? Hey, man, speaking of pay, how about free-to-pay? Or just really free-to-play Awesomenauts. That's right. This happened just after last week. On May 24th, it went free-to-play. And, yeah, that's definitely a thing. Awesomenauts, you never heard of it. You're not really missing much. They did... I was like, okay, I don't really mind this. I think the game was like 10 quid or something like that.
And it came in a bunch of humble bundles too. So
right. It's one of those things you had to go out of your way not to have a copy of. But, it's like a 3-on-3 action platformer, how they describe it. But even if you own the game, the free-to-play version, which is now what you will get if you download it or it will update to that, they've removed the bots because they're dumbasses. Development 101, don't take away features from paying customers. Probably going to have a bad time. However, for your trouble of giving them wet, stinky caches, they'll give you a medal in your profile, so it makes up for all that. On the 25th, the day after it went free to play, they hit a peak of 800 players, so it did bring some life back into the game. And like total players for like the last week block, according to SteamDB, I think it was about 4,000 players, but that's mostly people installing it because it's free to play and going, yeah, no. But can you still buy things? Yeah, $24.99. Oh, you get all the Awesomenauts unlocked if you'd already purchased it. Yay. I guess I'm not, I sound like I'm shitting on the game. I'm really not. I just never really enjoyed it all that much. Thoughts, hints?
I mean, it's a multiplayer Mega Man, right? So it's going to appeal to a bunch of people. They added co-op versus bots, though. I don't know why they would remove the single player one. That just smacks of idiocy.
It was never really single player. It's a 2D MOBA. That's what it is. You get the platforming, shooty mechanics, but it is very much a MOBA. And they did make it free to play, and right now, since it's gone free to play, it's actually been rising. The peak players yesterday was 1,050.
But are they going to retain it, though? That's the question. Because the game went free. Everyone's like, all right, I don't have to pay money for it. I'm going to try it out. And then they'll play it for a week, and then they'll get bored of it. So I'm curious to see how long that period of increased usage.
Well, it was definitely on life support, because I was perusing through their forums, and a lot of people were saying just to find matchmaking could take up to 6 minutes before they did this. So they're definitely trying to give it a shot to keep it alive. Best of luck to them. I don't know if it's too little too late, and especially when you've just genuinely... Now, then again, it's the small vocal minority who've just went batshit insane about this. You know, like the redrive is like spooled up with those lot. Maybe we'll check back in a month and see what's going on.
All right. This, on the other hand, does look kind of neat. And I'm kind of sad that even though I sent them an email asking for keys, they haven't replied. This is Immortal Redneck. They describe it as an FPS set in Egypt with roguelite elements. Frantic gameplay, twitch controls, and an arcade-style feel meet randomly generated dungeons, a complete skill tree, permanent death, and 9 classes with different traits. Yes, classes you need to unlock as you play the game. So in that way, it's very similar to Rogue Legacy, except the way that the game is presented, it looks a lot like Ziggurat.
Ancient Egyptian hillbilly Ziggurat, which is a great name, by the way.
And Ziggurat was a really, really good game, and I've heard from people that this one isn't as good as Ziggurat, but I was kind of curious to see because, again, I liked Ziggurat a lot. So, yeah, kind of sad they didn't reply to my email.
Pedro gets so whiny if somebody's like immediately writes him back. I was like, it's been 2 days. They don't love me.
I'm needy, okay? I'm needy.
Man. It looks neat. It's Bubba Hotep on a budget. It needs more Bruce Campbell, as most things do. Agreeing with Jordan, it would make a interesting hillbilly Ziggurat band name. Digging that. Currently, what is this critter clocking at?
It's usually at around 20 of your local wet stinky currencies. It's 10% off now.
So 20 of your local wet stinky currencies, because 10% off is nothing.
Okay.
Basically.
That's not everything,
though. No, it's not. But this is everything. Literally everything. That's the name of the game. It was created by David O'Reilly, and if that name doesn't tell you anything, you probably didn't see the movie Her, or play. I say play. That game, again,
experience, sit through.
Yeah, you experienced Mountain, the mountain simulator, where
that's the one where you get your head smashed in, Pedro, right?
No, that's just the one where you started and there's a mountain there. And if you hit like the ZX, CV, B, and M keys, it makes piano noises. And if you hit certain notes in certain orders, stuff starts happening in the mountain, or on the mountain, as the case may be. And yeah, that was basically the depth of the gameplay. If you wanted to play it, I guess. But
this one's different though, because instead of being a mountain, you're everything. You can like play as trees and rocks and fish and microorganisms, and you can change your scale from like macro to micro.
Galaxies.
You can scale up to the multiverse. It's basically a giant fuck around simulator with no real point. And occasionally you get lectured about existentialism. I was watching the Game Grumps playthrough of it, and that's pretty much all that was going on.
I don't know. I looked at it, and then I saw in the show notes, it was like, from the creator of the amount. It's like, and I quit looking at it and went about my merry way. If I wanted a fuck around simulator coming to Linux, I'd rather it be GTA 5. But this, it's the first time we get to put Loudwire in our show notes, but it's a Victor Vran Overkill Edition. They've revealed the Motorhead Through the Ages. The gaming expansion that they've been teasing for like 35 years is finally going to come out. When's it coming out? May 30th. And I'm really digging this trailer. They got all the bits in there from Motorhead lore, and it looks more like almost a total conversion, even though it's like some of the maps, I'm like, yeah, I can tell that map. But
starring Tromas Lloyd Kaufman, that guy who like owns the company for some reason.
Just really looking forward to playing this. I'm curious as to how it's going to be priced. I could see it because Victor Vran came out for like 20 quid. Great game for the money. Don't know if they're going to be trying to go for that price again, but I mean, just looking at it, they could probably get like 20 quid out of me, man.
Yeah, like depending on how long the game is,
right?
Because like with the amount of time they've been developing it, I really hope they have some pretty expansive levels and like a good amount of gameplay. If they're going to be charging 20, if they're charging 10, then if they have an abridged experience, that's fine. I'm just still sad that Lemmy's dead, you guys. I've been looking forward to this one for a while. It just needs to fucking come out already. They've been talking about it for like 2 years now.
Yeah, they've been announcing announcements for it for the longest time, but it's finally coming out. There's a date. And they say that you will be given an option for people who already have the original Victor Vran. You can just buy the Overkill Edition add-on, which is cheaper than if you bought the Overkill Edition, the full thing, because you don't own the game already. So good on them for that. It'll probably be around 10. This is just speculation on my part, but it'll probably be around $10 for that bit of DLC, quote unquote, that'll give you access to the Overkill Edition. And for everyone else, yeah, you're probably going to have to drop the 20 bill on it.
I mean, it definitely could be worth it. But one thing I definitely want to ask about the Victor Vran is, do you think it'll ever come with a Vulkan render?
Probably not.
It could be, but Feral, they gave an interview with the fine folks.
Don't give us money just yet. Wait until Pedro's done talking. Put your wallet give us money. Feral gave an interview type of deal in Boiling Steam, and they said it was Edwin from Feral that said that they've been actively working on Vulkan since basically the second half of 2016, which was when they said, yes, we're looking at Vulkan, we're seeing its viability all the way back. And they say that even the RATV driver, the open source Radeon Vulkan driver, is making leaps and bounds to catching up to where Intel and NVIDIA currently are with theirs. They test on all the different hardware configurations that we also know that they have, because they showed a picture a while back of all those FX8350s and the Radeon cards and whatnot. And they collecting dust in Feral's offices because they clearly don't test on it.
And when asked specifically about Mad Max and how the Vulkan implementation went with it, they say that they are now starting to see the performance gains that they had expected. And when you're dealing with something like Indirect X, which introduces a lot of overhead, especially CPU-bound overhead, to a game, having a graphics API that spreads the load across all available cores on your CPU, cores, threads, whatever, it is a very good thing, because all of a sudden the game performs better. Even if the performance is still a little bit janky here and there, but it did increase the performance considerably when compared to OpenGL. It just introduced a little bit of jank. Now,
Fully expected a bit of jank, though. I mean, this is Feral walking out of the gate with Vulkan, and when Feral does bad, I'm like, Feral did bad. When Feral does good, I say Feral did good. I mean, this is not easy. Vulkan, I'm sorry, it's not easy. You're like, yes, would have thought DX12, also not easy. So you might as well pick the one that works on everything instead of the one that's already dead.
But Vin Visual Studio does it for you. Yeah. So one thing that interested me about this interview is they mentioned the hardest part was the initial refactor in our shared code base to allow for these explicit APIs. So does that actually mean that they're sort of, with the Vulkan implementation of Mad Max, they're ditching IndirectX in favor of actually manually rewriting the graphics stack in Vulkan? Or are we seeing some newer tools like IndirectX2, the search for Spock?
I think what you're seeing is, let's learn how to Vulkan first, then let's try to automate it second.
Perhaps.
Yeah,
perhaps.
That's probably the end goal here, is find a way to create an indirect text style runtime translation layer to convert DX11, 9, 10, maybe even 12 to Vulkan.
Well, there was that interesting project we covered a while ago about that guy trying to replace all the D3D create a library for Direct 9
HLSL to V?
Yeah, to map them to Vulkan ones. Yeah, that one. So maybe they're going to leverage something like that. Who knows?
It could be.
Maybe we should just leverage our way out of here.
Coming up next, we talk about the humbuckers that we've installed, and then maybe we'll show you one, and then I'm just fucking with you. News next.
Gentlemen, boys and girls, we don't really have driver news this week, but before we get to those bits of news that we do have, we like to whore ourselves out, get you to part with your hard-earned money as we shout in your face. It's basically Stockholm Syndrome at that point. You will love us.
No, you won't. You'll just hate us, or at best tolerate us. But if you are one of those people who tolerates us, and it's like the Quark-Odo relationship, they'd miss each other if either one was dead. If you have that sort of thing, you should maybe head on over to patreon.com/LinuxGameCast. 103, you thought it was a good idea. You're giving us $181 per episode. We don't put an episode out that particular week. You don't have to pay. It's pretty brilliant. We got a bunch of reward tiers up next on the docket. If we can make it to 200, you get to force me to play a game I hate in its entirety. We got to play that from beginning to end. It's going to be miserable. But one thing that isn't miserable is Tuesdays and Thursdays. We get additional streams. Ben was playing Hollow Knight this week. I was playing Disgaea. And then I ended up having to finish the game of Disgaea I was streaming today before the show. It's fun times. But if you want to give us some money, that is the best way to go about it. Igor is a wonderful human being who did it this week. You can also get access to the Discord channel that you can see on the video.
Well, I finally remembered to do something, because on the after show on our Wednesday show with Pedro, myself, and Strikecore, where we just talk about general Linux stuff, Pedro walked me through the process of getting to the Discord link.
It was more than a step. You had to click on posts, then Control F Discord, then click on it. Yeah, now there's a link there.
Just there, and you can hop in there. This is where the inmates hang out the other 5 days of the week.
And they're making fun of Martin Wimpren.
we love you, Martin. What else we got? Is that it?
I mean, if you head on over to LinuxGameCast.com, you click on that support the show button. We got Amazon affiliate links. We got a wish list because Ben wants that Blackmagic capture card and some NVMe stuff that he can install on his current computer. But you could also buy him the motherboard and CPU that support it. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Say no more. Say no more. And someone actually went and bought us some stuff this week, didn't they, Ben?
Hey, man, it's a thing, man. Everything we have on our Amazon wish list, mind you, is for just the studio. It's to make this show better for you, to increase your viewing enjoyment. And Bradley sent a note, which I'm trying to flail around and find right now. It reads, "Hi, Vid. Hope you guys still need this. If not, here's your gift receipt. Love the show. Bradley," if that is your real name. That's definitely a thing. And this showed up. Yeah, it's another pile. PHE, what is it? The 300s. They break ground loops, julienne fries, and also reduce any hum. Everyone who has any type of audio system that goes from digital to analog really should have one of these in the tool chain somewhere. This will be hooked up probably by Wednesday because one of my DACs that I was going to use this with was like, it's just not having it. There's nothing wrong with this at all. It's just the DAC itself needs to be poked and prodded. But thank you for that. That's awesome. We look forward to doing more cool stuff. And I think that's enough shilling, man. But hey, we don't get to read ads. We're loud, live, independent, and you know what we say. We're not being bought off. And thanks everyone for allowing us to do that, man.
Right. Now, if you want to save some money and you have a RX 480, this little hot tip, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, may actually result in some gains. Not really, question mark. So this is from techpowerup.com. We covered last week that the latest ATI, AMD, whatever you want to call it, video card, the 580, is not that big of an improvement over the 480. In fact, it may very well be the same card. And much like how you can flash the Quadro BIOSes onto the higher-end NVIDIA cards, you can flash a 580 BIOS onto a 480, and it will present to the operating system as a 580. Because of the wonderful process known as binning, aka we're going to produce 1 million copies of the same chip and sell you the defective ones at markdown, because that's how the technology market goes. So you can now do this. This won't, because in essence it is the same card, you don't magically get extra performance. You may get some, if they have some 580 specific optimizations and like the game that does like a string match for your GPU version, then you might get something. You basically still need to overclock this. But Pedro, you may want to be careful or else it might explode, correct?
Yeah, there is one huge explodey issue with flashing the VBIOS of a 580 to a 480. You may remember
other way around, Pedro. Other way around.
Yeah, yeah, the other way around. The VBIOS of the 580 to a 480. That's the one. Yeah. So you may remember there was an issue with the 480s when they were released, that they were pulling more power from the PCIe ports than they were supposed to. And AMD eventually released a driver that fixed it. It also came with a firmware update to lock the PCIe to at most 75 watts and have the 6-pin extra PCIe power connector pull the rest of the power that the card needed. And for a 150 watt TDP card, that's fine. That's what the RX 480 is binned at, so that's fine. That 6-pin PCIe is all it needs.
PPIe,
the 580, on the other hand, is a 185 watt TDP card. So you probably want those 2 extra grounds so you can push those extra 35 watts. And if you do go above those 75 watts on just the PCIe extra connectors, you kind of really want those 2 grounds, because the 12-volt rail probably not going to enjoy just having power pushing into the GPU at that point. And the GPU itself might not be able to handle it if the VRMs and everything don't account for it, which the 480 ones don't. So the moment you flash the RX 580 BIOS into the RX 480, the limitations that AMD put in place in the 480s to keep the power package down to around 150 watts, it's, yeah, you're going to need those extra pins, and you don't have it in the 480. It's just a 6-pin power connector. You don't get an 8-pin, so it's just a matter of time until
all I'm hearing is do this, and take pictures.
Also, Pedro, you said package.
Yes,
Giggity.
I said package, and I said
listen,
PCIe.
Don't be hating on this, because Vega is just like right around the corner. It's going to kick everyone in the face.
Right.
Oh, yeah, it is. So, Shay Dean posted this story on Google+, and it is the very first bit of news that we have when it comes to the Vega performance. All of the AMD fanboys are hyping up, oh, it's going to be awesome. It's going to destroy the GTX 1080. Well, no, it isn't. Because if this particular bit of news is factual, and assuming it will hold up to the scrutiny as time goes by and Vega actually comes out so people can put it to the test, the Vega is 5% slower than the GTX 1080 in just regular 1080p gaming, and about 11% faster than the GTX 1070. Now, there was one bit in this article that says, I'm expecting at least 15 to 20% additional performance over the GTX 1080 Ti at 4K / ultra graphics in games like Quake Champions, Doom, Rise of the Tomb Raider, etc. So that right there tells you the bias of this particular writer, Mr.
BIOS?
Yes, the V-BIOS. The Anthony
Like an
Gareffa
M-BIOS?
yeah. And also 15 to 20% over the GTX 1080 Ti.
Hey man, listen, he can expect all the wishy reality distortion stuff he needs to go to bed at night. We don't know. I mean, this is rumors. I want Vega to come out and just curb stomp all the things. I really do. It won't, but I mean, I can still hope, and then I can also hope for competent drivers, binary blob drivers, because let's face it, the open source drivers for ATI, they're getting pretty good. To come out and deliver relatively decent performance. But, all this is really for naught, because, I mean, if you're locked into, like, Team Green or Team Red, and, you're trying to have a conversation with somebody who's, like, behind, it doesn't matter which one, let's say Team Red for this one, they can't do the mental gymnastics. They have to put you have to be on the other team. You're like, well, you're just an NVIDIA fan. And I was like, no, I'm just telling you how the shit's gonna fucking shake out, man. You're like, no, you're biased, and so I don't bother with it anymore. J baby, do you
I mean, the one thing that stuck out to me in this article is like, the reason that this theoretical benchmark is losing out in 1080p is because these cards are meant for 4K and beyond. I'm like, I think your reasoning there is a little flawed. That's not how graphics cards work, right?
Yeah.
If things don't magically run better at higher resolutions because of magic. No, you're processing like pixels on a screen. So if you have fewer pixels to process, you have more power to devote processing power to devote to rendering those pixels. I'm
the only thing that 4K would do is remove some of the processor bottleneck if it existed in the first place. But that's not what this is about. And don't get me wrong, being able to compete with the 1070, at least on performance, is something that AMD kind of needs to at least stay relevant.
if they can release it and it competes with the 1070 and it's $170, then maybe
they're probably going to push it at around 300. The 1070 is still around 350, 360. So yeah, if they can push it at 300 or lower, there's probably not going to be lower.
They'll be pushing it real good, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah,
but the big question is, I mean, can I still flash the 580 BIOS to it?
Probably
not. This is probably going to be a different GPU.
No. Pedro, you can and you should.
LGC cares, ladies and gentlemen. Just do it.
The 1070 is 150 watt TDP part, and the RX Vega is reportedly 225 watts.
For this story has gone to another galaxy. Moving on.
Far, far away. 1.2 update of GOG Galaxy Universal in-game overlay. Choosing your. What about Linux? And you're like, you motherfuckers still believe that shit? We've been stringing you along on that for like what, 4 years, and you're still lapping that up. It ain't never gonna happen. Hell, it'll show up on Lutris before we actually get a client, which is probably true, even though Strider was kind of joking about that.
Yeah.
In the show notes, but this was nothing to really like be shocked about. I looked at it and I was like, Control F, LIN, red bar, and I was like, okay, let's close that tab and call it a day, because the fine folks responsible for that asshattery did a little bit of a BizDev Q&A over on the Reddits.
Yeah, they answer the most commonly asked questions. And if you do Control F Linux on this one, you actually see a few hits. Namely, where the hell's Witcher 3? Why the hell are Linux native games not available on GOG? Why you ship DOSBox for Linux for those DOS games? Precisely. And they say, oh, the DOSBox thing, those are licensing issues. And at this point, I wanted GOG to at least be a competitor to Steam. But as far as the Linux market is concerned, GOG doesn't really seem to want to step up to the task. I mean, the whole Witcher better off than it. The whole Witcher 3 thing, because let's face it, GOG and CD Projekt Red, they're the same people. They just work on different things. And they literally say, that's a question for CD Projekt Red, not GOG. We are not involved in the development of Witcher 3.
Yeah, man. I mean, they kind of like genuinely just deflected the hell out of that, you know, because, you know, the Witcher 3 port probably canceled. I mean, yeah. If you're not involved, okay, that's the thing. But you know the damn answer. And if that damn answer was something other than, oh, fuck the hell, yes, it's canceled, you would have said something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm still confused as with like the licensing thing. I get with Aspire and Feral, you actually have to work out a distribution deal with them because Aspire and Feral, well, I guess Aspire doesn't anymore, but Feral has their own store. Aspire did. And so you need to actually get that sorted out. But for DOS games running on DOSBox, that open source piece of software, I don't understand what kind of licensing is involved. You take the same version of DOSBox that you're packaging the Windows version with, and you just use the Linux version because it's the same software, right? It's the same source code. It's middleware. Oh wait, SDL uses the zlib library. Oh. Yeah, so I don't really see how what this is aside from GOG being lazy and not wanting money. But you know, speaking of people who want money, this next story has nothing to do with it.
No, man, I think we should just fade to black.
So that was an issue that I was having last week with Asura.
What's up with this guy?
Wait, I was about to say, was your issue dressing like a douche holding the plastic blue gun?
No.
This is Pedro after moving to the UK. I'm calling it right now.
Dude, this is just Pedro with a fucking haircut, son. That's it.
I mean, thank you. I mean, that's a kind of good looking man. In any case, this is an issue if you have glibc 225 installed in your system. Now, if you're running 1604, chances are you don't. I do because I'm an idiot and I decided to install the Zen kernel. And with the Zen kernel, you need a more up-to-date version of glibc. So usually you'd find this in Arch, Fedora, and OpenSUSE Tumbleweed. And if you want to get into the alpha for the 1710 Ubuntus, you might also get this version. But this only affects Unity 64-bit titles built with Unity Engine 5.6 or older, and you have glibc 225, which is my case. Every single bit of that kind of culminated in Asura. So whenever I would try to start the game, it would just be black. I couldn't see anything. The game wouldn't load. It wouldn't get past that. The cursor did change to the game-themed version of the cursor, but outside of that, it wouldn't load. I had to try and start it over and over again, and eventually it kicked up. That is an issue with the way that the glibc version 225 handles memory allocation versus what Unity assumes that glibc will do. And so there's a little bit of a conflict there, but there's a workaround, and that's what this article is about. And if you use gemalloc, that's with a J, J-E, malloc. It does, if you uninstall Asura, you delete the Unity 3D config folder for Ogrehead Studios. It's basically as if you did a clean install of it, and you add the LD preload for the lib GAMLOC memory library, sorry, and then command percentage to the Steam advanced launch options, the game will start, and it reliably starts without you having to futz with it too much. So that's good.
Two things. Number one, that still bugs me that for when you're editing the command parameters for Steam games, you have to use Windows variable notation, because that's just really fucking stupid. Number two, the article itself, I asked Pedro about this because in the case of Feral games, if you need to set environment variables like Steam runtime stuff, you actually need to launch Steam with these variables in place. So this is what this article says to do: launch Steam with JEMLOC preloaded, but you can actually do this on a per game basis.
Yep.
Unity, educate the people better. You don't want all your games using this freaking memory allocator that is non-standard and is a workaround for your games.
Yep. And yeah, no, that's for me, I only noticed it with Asura, but every game built with Unity Engine 5.6 that is running in 64-bit will have this issue if you have glibc 225. So if you do, show notes. It's all there.
Speaking of workarounds, though, you might remember Mr. Alert from the occasional game of Rocket League. He shows up, or maybe you see him post on Chatroom.
Nope, never
Dynamic.
Heard of him.
Well, then screw you, Ben. No one cares. No, this we people have long been asking, and I brought this up a couple weeks ago. Strider loves the fact that this exists now. A middleware or an implementation of the SDL 1.2 functions using SDL2. So that, say, if you want to run your older games, you get new things like being able to Alt-Tab or running multiple monitors without other monitors shutting off. So there's this SDLC compatibility layer that does that. And they've, in the couple weeks that it's existed, they've made some significant progress. Strider's been working on implementing this in Lutris. They got Unreal Tournament 99, Prey, and now Rune working with it. So that is just shocking. So Shatrealm doing what Nintendo don't.
Not just those, Neverwinter Nights, assuming you don't want to see the movies because NW Movies doesn't work just yet, but Neverwinter Nights also works with SDLCL, the native Linux version. Good on you, Mr. Alert. Good on you.
It's pretty crazy. The fact that this is actually really useful, and this is coming out of this fucking show. It baffles me.
It's kind of insane.
I don't know, man. We've changed, man. We've changed. What is this? 2 games from the Aspires coming out.
Oh, yeah, but, unlike their less than successful Civ 6 port, they're not actually involved with making these games. They are just publishing them. And we've actually talked about both of these earlier, but this is a news post from Boiling Steam, those guys who were talking about other things previously in the show.
Yeah.
So Inner Space, the game that has nothing to do with Robert Picardo, which is really, really upsetting to me and no one else. And Layers of Fear 2, the stackening, or what do they call it? Observer, brain guy from Mystery Science Theater. It's another walking simulator horror type thing. Aspire is helping these guys get some much needed publicity, and will be publishing their games. And hopefully, well, at least with the Layers of Fear one, I'm pretty sure both of them are going to get Linux releases because Aspire has been pretty good about that. Are you guys excited? Because I'm not really.
No. The flying one, I was like, that looks neat. I can already smell that it's going to be overpriced. And the other one, it's like, yeah, that's been done 30 times already.
Yeah, no, they are basically, they said, okay, so we tried to do an Amnesia style thing with Layers of Fear, and it just turned into opening and closing door simulator 2016.
Walk in a straight line until you can't anymore. Turn around. Oh, new stuff. Spooky. Walk in a straight line.
And there's a wall. There's a doll coming out of a door and running head first into one of the cupboards. I lost my shit.
Kick it.
Yeah, it's pretty bad with that. Yeah, that game should have just been called Doorways or something like that. That's definitely a thing. But before we get out of here, Open LoRa is not as kinky as you might think. Nay, classic Tomb Raider open source engine WebGL build with a demo level. Kind of put this at the end Because this is inspired by the Open Tomb project, which is bringing that up to date and replacing a lot of the art, I think all of the art, with original assets. Not going to load it.
Yeah, there it is.
Hey!
Oh wow, there are shadows. I played a lot of this game in the old Sega Saturn days. The shadows didn't look that good.
I mean, it's got a little bit of herky jerk to it, but I mean,
you're playing this right now, yeah?
yes.
You're kind of streaming
live
at the same time,
on Linux
so,
game.
yeah.
What streaming games on Linux? What the hell is this shit?
This goes against our charter. What the hell? No, man, it's a really cool project, and it's interesting to see because last week we were able to talk about Icky Butts. Ryan C. Gordon, he was like, hey, man, I kind of got that intro thing to UT working with WebGL, and I was like, oh, that's really neat. And these guys come in and it's like, just play the first level. It's got a level browser on it, too. And if you really want to wrap your minds around this, gentlemen, it supports the Xclone controller out of the box. I just kind of reached over and poked it. I was like,
In the browser.
In the browser. Now, the terrifying realization I had is like 10 years from now, it might not be browser-based, but it'll be very much using this technology this is how your games will be delivered, not
Oh no, they'll still find an excuse.
No, it won't be downloadable. They're not going to stream it either because that technology's not there. You're going to get stuff like this where you temporarily download chunks of it while you're playing it through whatever DRM'd bullshit system.
It already happens in consoles. That's how a lot of the 60 FPS games on the Xbox One can manage to be 60 FPS because the only thing that the console itself is rendering are just the physics and the stuff you're directly interacting with. Backgrounds, skyboxes, everything else, that's usually rendered in whatever company's servers made the game and then streamed so you could just have 60 FPS being streamed to you and rendering just those teeny tiny bits at 60 FPS.
So,
kind of a dirty trick.
So this is all very impressive and whatnot, but when you're doing WebGL work with games, you still need to realize that if you are planning to use more than one thread, well, you can't because it's JavaScript. So
Yeah.
Good luck with that. I was saying before that, like with the advances in WebGL and just better JIT compiling in JavaScript, web-based games like this will start to become a viable platform for delivery. And you guys were saying I was talking bullshit all those years ago.
Electron is the future!
Speaking of which, I actually know the guy who did the Xbox controller driver for Firefox. He's a really cool guy, and he slams his head into doors because he's taller than Ben. It's hilarious. But
I mean, the one thing you got to think about, everyone's like WebGL, all right, what about WebLLAP, man? I mean...
Web Vulkan in the not too distant future, man. Not too distant.
Somewhere inside space.
Coming.
Hey, I wanted to give this a shout out. A game we threw some chairs at. What was it called? Something Thimbleweed, something Park. Yeah, man. Ron Gilbert. He was talking up in the top here. He's like, I'm always disappointed when I go to buy a game on Steam and it's Windows only. Then of course, or you're on a Mac, whatever, Windows and all that. Then he drops this logic bomb. I'm like, what? Over 1/3 of Thimbleweed Park sales are on Mac and Linux. You're being silly if you're ignoring that. To which I was like, did not expect that, Brad.
I mean, we're a demographic with buying power, and especially for an indie adventure title, where, like, I mean, you're not expecting too many people to jump on that, but it was a fairly successful Kickstarter, and it seems to be fairly successful. They're getting good reviews. We reviewed it relatively well. And yeah, don't discount the Linux users. If you hate money, then don't port to Linux.
Linux users are nothing if not a big old mob of nostalgia, just going around and hey, look, it's a very, very retro, almost Monkey Island level retro point-and-click adventure game. And hey, it was made by the same people, basically. So yeah, people are going to pick up on it. I didn't like it, but that's because I'm one of those people. I'm just contrarian like that.
Shut up, Pedro. No one cares what you think. Coming up next, much like Pedro's arguments, this night is hollow. it's midnight, so let's hurry through this. This is Hollow Knight. It's by Team Cherry. It's on the Unity engine. You can pick it up for around 15 of your local currency. What is it? Forge your own path in Hollow Knight, an epic action adventure through a vast ruined kingdom of insects and heroes. Explore twisting caverns, battle tainted creatures, and befriend bizarre bugs, all in a classic hand-drawn 2D style. These guys did send us some keys, so let's kick off. The CHAIRQUISITION. 1 chair means that it's garbage, 2 chairs means it's meh, 3 chairs means it's pretty good, 4 chairs means that it's so good. We also got our categories Doom, mixed with working shiny sounds, controls, and fun. So Ven did Hollow Knight make with the working?
Over here on the Kubuntu 1604 point what the fuck ever, 8150, powered by 980, displayed at UHD. It absolutely did, good sir. Really no issues whatsoever. Outside of, it does like to nom all the RAMs. Whatever you have available, it'll say just, I'll have myself a bit of that. No, it's fantastic. It doesn't have a memory leak or anything like that. And it does a good job of releasing everything. Kind of fueling my conspiracy. This is a stealth 2.5D game. Not really. You can run it at 3840 by 2160, but in-game, all the art's 1080, and it is just displayed at 1080, so nothing to report there. It's not necessarily a bad thing because the art is amazeballs. But we'll get into that a bit later. But 4 chairs coming out.
Yeah, I gave this a run on the Steam box, which is an A10 5800K with the GTX 750 Ti. I also played this on the box of business here, which is an i7 6700K with the GTX 980. TV box is running Fedora 25, desktops running Fedora 24. No issues on both of them. Minor gripe, though, there's no Steamworks save integration. So you got to go into that .config Unity 3D Team Cherry, blah, 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 copy the files over if you want to pick up where you left off on another computer. So not enough to ding a chair. It gets 4.
Oh, yeah, I'm with Jordan on the lack of Steam cloud saves. That would have been nice. But I did make the camera freak out for a second during the Master of Souls boss fight, because at one point it breaks the glass floor and the camera is set to immediately go down because it expects that you will fall down. But since I managed to get to the ledge on the right side and my character didn't fall, the camera was like, oh, shit, you didn't drop, right. So it sorted itself. In many other games, Tomb Raider, that would have probably required a restart. In Hollow Knight, it sorted itself. Also, it's a Unity game that not only didn't fuck itself trying to span across both my screens, it allows you to enable and disable VSync at will, if for some reason you want to play at 300 FERPs. So over here on Ubuntu Mate with the FX8370E and the GTX 1080, 4 chairs.
All right, well, that's 4 chairs for Mix with Working. Up next is the Shiny and the Sounds. Ven, what'd you think?
Well, it is quite beautiful. Chad Gibson, you know how to art, son. I'm just going to say that. Great on the animation as well. You kind of know you're in for something special with a Hollow Knight. The second you hit the start button on the menu and it makes that... So you're like, oh, shit, that's nice. I wonder if the rest of the game can deliver from that piece of audible majesty. It's like, oh, and it does. It is brilliant. It looks great. It's not hipster pixel. Think Flying Spaghetti Monster. And when you just look at this on the Steam store, you don't really get a feel for what you're in for. I mean, yeah, everything is themed dark, but I mean, you're in the not underworld, but you're under everything, and there's ain't no sunshine when you play. But man, it's done so well. So many environments, unique environments, detailed environments, different characters. It's not like the same characters over and over and over again. I could spoil shit, and even the same characters go batshit later on in the game, around the 30-hour mark. More about that in the fun section. You're the protagonist, the person you play, has character. You kind of get that feel. It's like when you're doing like the super slam smash thing and you hit a wall, the little fucker just kind of like looks back at the screen and breaks the fourth wall. It's like, fucking really, man? Come on. Is that going to be a thing? And NPCs, they're all well done. They're well voiced for what voice you can subscribe to them. The audio, though, put your headphones on your ear pussies and absorb that shit. I felt myself just not moving, just the atmospheric, just, it opens everything up. a lot of games, and say, well, put your headphones in. The only time I'll take the headphones off is just usually with the boss fights with this game, because I get stressed out with shit. It does have a little bit of boss music, it kind of pumps up the jam just a bit. Got to take them off, get zoned out and ready to play that. But outside of that, man, visually, it's kind of hard to explain. If you're looking at the video, just look at it. It's beautiful. Everything. It's detailed to hell and back. I'm gushing for all the right reasons, and the sound is just as good as the video. And I'm so happy to be able to say it gets all the chairs.
Oh yeah. I mean, this thing does the classic highly designed foreground and background with a minimalist character design, and normally I'm lukewarm to that trope, but it's done very, very well in this. And all the little bug people have their charms. They all, like Ben said, they all look distinct. All the enemies, even they have like even the minor ones that you kill, they all have like a little bit of character, which makes it kind of fun to murder them because they're like, haha, I get to take a life. Sound-wise, I didn't have headphones on while I was playing it, so I guess I didn't really get the full sonic experience, aside from like the gibberish dialogue and the thwacky noises and the menu buttons and whatnot. I didn't really hear too much of it. What I did hear was adequate. No real issues there. The art style is very, very good. Like I said before, everything has character, which it's more you could attribute to the hand-drawn style. All the animations are smooth. The one problem I do have, and it is a nitpick, is with the highly detailed foreground and background, sometimes enemies will slip under your radar because they're being disguised by the environments in the foreground, which can get a little annoying, especially if you get fucked in a corner, you get murdered to death, which will happen sometimes. But it resonates with the theme and the tone, and it's all very good. I did not really find any gripes with it, so I gotta give it 4 chairs.
Yeah, if A Bug's Life had been directed by Tim Burton and produced by Studio Ghibli, not only would it have been a much more interesting movie, as it probably would have looked a lot like this. And all my rants about how aesthetics are supposed to only serve the mechanics and just cut the crap, I make that spiel based on the assumption that developers can either do one or the other. We've seen it time and time again. Games which sacrifice functionality for the sake of visuals. Aragami with its takedown animations and Pavilion. Remember that? In Hollow Knight, though, you can have your aesthetic cake and eat it, too. The visuals do a phenomenal job of creating an atmosphere of desolation and loneliness, and they don't get in the way of the mechanics. But more on that later. Even those few other NPCs you run into look and sound very unreliable. Like they have their own motivations for being in this place, and just because you're there and you kind of have a camera following you, they're not just set pieces for you to gawk at and expect them to come to your rescue. And while the quote-unquote voice acting, if it can be called that, is very limited to just simple gibberish, which really only serves to convey the tone which the NPC is talking to you, it doesn't outstay its welcome. It's few and far between. And if all the characters had been fully voiced, there would have probably been one that would just ruin it. And the background audio, subtle as it is, it just nails the atmosphere coffin shut around you. It's just, yes, 4 chairs.
All right, well, that is 4 chairs for the shiny and the sounds. Let's kick it over to controls. Ven, this thing controlled like a butt, right?
Oh, man, this is some of the sloppiest stuff I'm just kidding, man. Normally, I would have played this game, just using the analog stick, but I could tell in the first 10 minutes of gameplay that I would get killed to death if I attempted that. Because most games are so floaty, especially with Unity titles, you can get away with using the analog stick. And kind of over the years, that caused my D-pad to become unresponsive. Hollow Knight's so precise, I ended up taking apart the Hexclone controller and cleaning the D-pad out and making it all nice and responsive once again. That's saying a lot about how much I wanted to get into that. After doing that, though, man, I was definitely rewarded with arguably the most precise controlling game ever to grace the Linux. And yeah, you're going to need those really wicked, precise controls for Hollow Knight. You're going to need them, son. You're going to need them hard. Because some of the special items in this game are hidden behind spike traps that make custom Mario Maker levels look like fucking amateur hour. And it is legit. It is real. It is Nintendo hard, but it's also fair, which I really like. I mean, if you want to check with a judge, just go back and watch my live streams with this. You will hear me say more than once, I fucked that up. Not, well, I would have gotten that if something X, Y, and Z was behaving better in whatever game system. No, it's all on you. You fuck up, it's on you, 100%. And it's refreshing to have a game like that where you have to get good or you just get dead. And it really inspired a lot of gentlemen rage quits, or I quit rage quitting because it took too long to start back up. Not that the game takes long to load in any way, shape, form, or fashion. It wasn't that immediate thing. So this became one of the games, the rare 4 games ever on my Linux box to just permanently sit in the background. It was like, need some more Hollow Knight, or, oh, I think I can take that boss now. I've had my cooldown. Right there with the controls, 4 chairs for a Unity title.
Yeah, I mean, the sensitivity of the controls can definitely take some getting used to, especially if you're hammering on the analog stick like I do with your big, clumsy ape hands. But once you get the hang of it, it's smoothish sailing, because you'll still fuck it up. That's inevitable. That's just human error. No real complaints. Everything is mapped sanely. My one minor complaint, and again, a nitpick, if Asura can have proper button prompts for the DualShock 4, why can't this game? They're both Unity games, so I don't know. Needless to say, I will give this 4 chairs.
Okay, someone else who realized that the default Unity input settings are floaty as fuck, trademark, for platformers, and went out of their way to make sure they work properly. And I do mean properly. If you fuck up a jump, like Ven already mentioned, or you fail to do the downward slash and fall right into an acid pool, you can't blame the shitty controls on this one. When you hit a button and your character responds accordingly and with no noticeable latency, you're looking at a good game. When you tell the little ghost, as one of the NPCs calls him, to move just a teeny tiny bit closer to the edge, he will. And if you fuck up and you push too long, you're gonna die, or at least take some damage, because if you're about to shoot yourself in the foot, Hollow Knight doesn't just stand there and watch. It's going to help you aim towards each individual toe. That's how precise the controls are. 4 chairs.
Well, that's 4 chairs for controls. Let's wrap this up and put a bow on it. Ven, did you have fun? 30 hours in?
40. Almost.
40 hours
in. 38. Pacing, this game absolutely nails it. I mean, so far, every time I start to get the board, something's going to pop up and it instantly regains my interest. Hell, the game even changes up the levels later on that you would not constantly, but you would go back to revisit multiple times. But I can't tell you about that because spoilers, sweetie. And one of the mechanics in this is charms. You end up with me lucky charms. They modify things. They can give you minions to fight with, longer dash abilities, armor while you're regenerating and all that. And you have to do a bit of juggling with them, to balance it out. You have a limited amount of charm slots, which you can increase later on in the game, doing various tasks or just straight up buying them sometimes. And I don't mind it, because some bosses you got to sit and play around with all that, and the stacking of these charms is like, well, this one's going to go with this one. If I use this one with that on top of that, maybe I can, and sometimes it works, most of the time it doesn't, but the exploration in that alone is its own fun little mini game. And I don't like doing shit like that. The only other game that I can think of is Victor Vran, with juggling with the cards on your deck. Cards, Vin, you've gone crazy. I don't know what it is about Victor Vran, but I never mind that ability setting and all that up. But I'd say about an hour in, 45 minutes into Hollow Knight, you get your first real boss. Everyone thinks X and Y are your first bosses, and they go, oh shit, no, that's not the real boss. Here's the real boss. I was watching Truggy and Linux Nuru talk in our Discord channel earlier today and watching their progress, like, oh shit, there's a real boss, now we gotta fight. But Flying Spaghetti Monster, damn, do you get some pure, not from concentrate satisfaction when you curb stomp a fucking boss in this game. It is just like, yes! And you look around, you realize no one's there. You're like, fuck, I should have been streaming or recording that. You want to share that experience with someone. Pretty rare for a game to get that type of reaction out of me. Another thing this game did absolutely spot on is one hit, one heart. That's right, all the way back to Zelda. It doesn't matter what hits you. This doesn't even do a half heart. You basically have what I just call alien faces, and that's your damage, how many of those you get hit. It doesn't matter if you are top level and you get tapped by something like right off the bat when you start the game. It's going to do the same amount of damage. The smallest baddies can still fuck you right up, son. No matter how yellow swag you get, if you try to like rush through a main area, you'll die. Even if it's like one of the starting areas. Is there backtracking in this game? Yes, there is backtracking in Hollow Knight, but it's like Skyrim scale backtracking. The backtracking in Hollow Knight, it's not a mechanic to artificially inflate your playtime. Because seriously, this game is massive. There's no need
9
to...
9 gigs massive.
Right. Inflate anything there. I mean, the backtracking is done so you get your exploration on, and you're going to enjoy that, because 9 times out of 13, you're not just rewarded with like a little trinket or something like that. You get a little something, and it's like, oh yeah, and by the way, here's another massive expanse of stuff to go explore, and you're like, oh neat, that's good story progression, and all that fun stuff. And you got to get this shite. Like right at the 30-hour mark, Hollow Knight like walks out and is like, taps me on the shoulder, and I'm like, what game? He's like, check this out. And I was like, oh, hells no. I had a genuine like OMG WTF BBQ moment, #twist on that. Can't tell you anything about it. Didn't really, it's hard to explain without spoiling, change the game, but it really fucked up the perspective about a particular character in the game. You're like, oh, fuck. All right, that didn't see that coming, but good on you, game. And, you know, even earlier this week when I briefly mentioned, you know, after about like 4 hours into it, I was like, that's an all right looking game. Yeah, it's kind of fun. Sold 2 copies within an hour of that, of just getting that praise. And that was only 4 hours. 30 hours in, I'm chomping at the bit to get back to play it because I really enjoy it. This is probably going to be one of the best games released on Linux in 2017. How this game has not just been blown up to hell and back perplexes me as I'm sitting here telling you the words coming out of my mouth. And for the price, and I understand how it can get overlooked. It's a 2D platform. If you just look at the screenshots, you can go right by it. You're not doing yourself a favor. You're doing yourself a disservice. I mean, check this out. Pick it up. Doesn't require a lot to run. It runs great on what it will run on. If you didn't see that coming, there's the 4.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think that is the absolute longest I've heard Ven speak in the fun segment. And when he's gushing about something, you should at least give it a look. I mean, so for me, I really like the mapping mechanic in the game. It's really conducive to the whole exploring the levels. Especially, it also makes me super paranoid, even though I know that when you die, you like still retain all your map stuff if you have the quill. But I kind of wish that you had to like go back and find, because this game does the Dark Souls thing where if you die, you lose all the gold and whatever that you got, but you can go back and retrieve it if assuming you don't die again. So I kind of wish they kept that map data with that ghost, but you know, whatever. That again, nitpick. I'm not sure how I feel about the charm system, because you got to juggle them to customize your little dude's behavior, and I get that you get more of them afterwards. But if you need to find a save point to switch them out, I don't know. I don't like that mechanic where you limit people's ability to customize how the character plays if you find something that you thought would work well but doesn't. I mean, you get your abilities. I've only gotten so far that I got the Kamehameha wave and the dash. And the abilities themselves seems to be tied to various milestones that you reach in the game, unlike Metroid, where you can kind of just wander around aimlessly and eventually find them and be like, oh, cool. And the abilities tend to unlock other areas for you. So given the size of the maps, I had this reaction when I got the dash after killing Hornet, and you're like, shit, there's like 3 areas where I needed that sort of double jump ability. Do I want to backtrack or do I want to keep going? Kind of want to keep going. The challenge is definitely real. The game is tough but fair. Like you feel good when you nail the downward spike. I was having problems with that very early on, but I've gotten better at it. I still screw it up, but or beating a boss or something really gives you the dopamine rush that you're looking for. That reward of, yes, game, thank you for giving me what I want. The game is fun. That's pretty much it. It is a solid Metroidvania style platformer. I would say definitely check this out. I need to spend a lot more time with it. I'm only about 3.5 hours in, and I can tell I've just barely scratched the surface of what's going on. Listening to Ven talk about it, and just like, wow, I have some catching up to do. So I'm definitely gonna go back and spend a little more time with that game for sure. I can't give it 4 chairs because I haven't experienced the whole depth and breadth of it, so I can't really say, oh, this is the greatest thing ever, but I can definitely give it 3.
Yeah. Much like Ven, I could just spend hours wrapping my lips around the proverbial dick of Hollow Knight. It is a good, interesting, compelling, well-paced, atmospheric, and positively brilliant game. But since I'm basically the reason why we can't have nice things, I wouldn't be a proper games critic if I didn't find something to criticize. And it wasn't easy. I like to think of myself as an asshole, which can ruin a perfectly good thing, but Hollow Knight just looked at me and said, have at, bitch. Okay, so let's have at. Many times I got dealt bullshit damage from something I couldn't see because the camera was being slow, or a building in the foreground didn't fade out in time for me to see what the hell was in front of me. Also, this is the second thing, there's a fine line to be walked between organically promoting exploration in a Metroidvania style game and leaving players frustrated with their inability to progress. There is such a thing as too much negative space, albeit temporarily in this game, in this game's case. And negative space and level design is kind of a big deal. At around the 2-hour mark, I didn't have the dash, I didn't have the Mantis Claw, I didn't have the ground pummel ability, I didn't have the super dash, and I sure as hell had no idea what to do with those dark barriers. I got a little bit disheartened at that point. And then I realized, this isn't Dark Souls. This isn't a game designed solely around your skill, although there is plenty of that, don't you worry. Here in Hollow Knight, you need certain specific items. You need certain skills. You need those maps, and you really do need those maps. You need to, every now and again, just stop, go back to town, talk to all the NPCs, have a little chuckle at some of the things they say, and then go back. The moment that particular mindset kicked in, I was back in full Castlevania Symphony of the Night mode, and the game itself just seemed to say, oh, look, someone finally gets it. And everything started to make sense, and a few bits of frustration just turned into, fuck it, I'll come back later moments. And once the game had beat me into submission, I realized that yes, this is probably Linux Game of the Year 2017, unless something else really good comes along. 4 chairs.
All right, well, that is 3 chairs for the fun segment. Much to Strider's chagrin, this does not get 4 chairs, but it does get 3 with an asteroid. It's pretty good. I would definitely recommend picking it up. Gentlemen, what do you think?
Well, at the end of the day, 3 chairs is extremely high praise. Because that means the game's better than, well, it works. This works in spades. This completely caught me off guard. It delivered what I was looking for. Something that I could actively just have in the background, pick up, and fuck around with and enjoy. It's very simple on just the surface of it. The idea, if you grew up playing the original Metroid, the Castlevanias, the Marios on the NES. I mean, grew up playing them, not, I played them in an emulator when I was 12. It was like, that doesn't fucking count, son. You're really good. This is going to give you that experience again. I was thinking earlier this month, how the hell did I have the original Metroid mapped out in my brain organ? Because I never wrote anything down, but I knew exactly where everything is. I still have that ability, apparently. I mean, this has a nice detailed map on it, but it's the only time I'm usually looking at a map is when I'm trying to find interesting little mechanic. When you die, your ghost, your shadow, stays with all your money. So you're incentivized to go hunt that back down, which more often than not is on the other side of the fucking world almost every time. Yep. That's always fun, but most of the time you're going to run into new stuff and experience new things on your backtrack there to pick that. If you get 1,000 geo, that's like 30 geo. You're like, meh, whatever. Don't worry about it. Very well priced. Currently clocking in $14.99. It's a damn steal. I would even suggest 20% off. Pick up the soundtrack too. So you're going to have a good time if you like those types of games. This is just beautifully done, hand-drawn art, beautiful fucking music, totally works with the game. Almost have 40 hours into it, and I'm just getting started. I think I'm at the halfway point.
Yeah, no, this is a 2D platformer that takes 9 gigs out of your storage. When I saw that, I'm like, 9 gigs? What the hell? And then on Wednesday, Strider was saying, yeah, it usually takes around 40, 50 hours, according to how long to beat, when it comes to finding everything in the game. It's like, wow. And also, for the lore keepers out there, I just gave a Unity-built 2D platformer 4 chairs across the board. That should tell you something. And if it doesn't, well, you haven't been watching us long enough.
Yeah, this is you clearly get a lot of you get a lot of game for your buck. So definitely check this out. Coming up next, we talk about roaches and why you should pass them on the left-hand side. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, yep, you heard it right. I gave a 2D platformer built in Unity 4 chairs across the board. Insanity. But hey, if you'd like to, scream in my direction, say, what the hell were you thinking? Well, you can do that. You can go to LinuxGameCast.com, you hit the contact button, you fill the form. It's easy enough. If you want us to play your game, make sure that you send us 3 keys or a build that we can share among the 3 of us. If you want to promote your Kickstarter, Indiegogo, whatever campaign, make sure you have a demo we can download and play. Because if you don't, well, we're just going to make fun of you. So, this week, what do we have? Hey, wait. But before we do that, we got to give a shout out to North Ranger, who kicked in some
yes, he did.
On the Patreon, because one of the best ways to get in contact with us is the Patreon page.
Yeah, literally give us money. We'll pay attention to you. We kind of have to at that point.
To the email.
All right. So, Thurell McKinney Jr. says, hello, Linux Gamecast. My name is Thurell McKinney Jr., and I wanted to contact you about a game our studio... Okay, so these guys, they made a game. It's called The Roach, Charlie the Roach. And they don't really have anyone around them that is highly proficient in Linux. And so they have been contacting Linux-centric media outlets and get them, in this case us, to play their game for them. Now, that's all very well and good. And thank you for offering. I did send you an email back to which you never replied. What the hell's up with that? But they did offer to send us the build, even though they didn't really include the link to the demo. So, yeah, maybe work on that a little better next time. And yeah, as Ven is showing you right now, you can see there's a
Windows demo.
Yeah. There's a Windows demo, their Linux demo, and the Mac demo are currently in beta, and that's why they are asking for people to basically do their QA for them. Yeah.
Hey man, you can sugarcoat it all you want. I mean, open up a demo. It's a Unity title. If you get it on Steam, put it in there. Put it in a beta. I mean, that's the reason you can have different depots for shit, man. So take that. Unity, Windows Ninja. He's like, I know you have constantly screamed why people don't just hit the export to Linux button for Unity games. Semicolon. But don't they have to pay for that ability? Oh, you have to pay, brother. Oh, you have to pay.
With your soul.
Pay the iron price.
You pay one fee to be able to make the game in Windows. Another semicolon. But to export it, you have to pay another fee for Mac and yet another for Linux. Or am I wrong? Yours and crackers, Juan.
Okay, I'm sorry to say this, but you're wrong. Pretty sure that the game engine you're alluring to there is Game Maker Studio, not Unity. Because when it comes to Unity, the personal edition is free. You can export to Windows, Mac, Linux, Android, iOS, whatever. So long as you're not making over $100,000 every fiscal year, you can use the personal edition for free, not have to pay Unity, the company, anything.
Well, no, I mean, in all fairness, I mean, you can use the personal edition for free, but if you want like a usable version of the Unity engine,
yeah, then you have to pay. I can't remember how much the professional license costs a year, but it's a sizable sum. But yeah,
So here's the thing though, because I feel this does need to be addressed. Yes, you can click export on a Unity title, but we've said it time and time again, and make no mistake, this is no endorsement for just clicking export, shitting at a port and saying, here, guys, have it. Be glad you got anything. Actually install Linux on a machine. Hard drives are really cheap. SSDs are really cheap. Install Ubuntu. It's a 2-year-old can do it. Run the game. Make sure that things work. And maybe fix your code. Just say it.
Don't test in VMs. That's bad. Yeah, man, we pound it in. You don't have to go down to the Linux store and buy an expensive Linux box. This isn't a fucking Nextcube, man. Put it on your box and don't...
It's not shit.
I know your life has been a lie up to this point. Try it out. Hammer it out. I just like, but I don't want to support, 300 different versions of it. Don't. Base it. You either base that shit on a Ubuntu or base SteamOS. I kind of feel you if you don't want to do SteamOS because that shit's still in beta, but Valve Time, they fuck themselves on that one. But here's the thing. If it works on SteamOS, it's probably going to work on everything, including Arch. So.
Yeah, that's what the Steam runtime is there for.
Except when you're feral and you just say, oh, we got to use the old Steam.
F it.
Fuck newer versions of glibc and their stupid monkey face. Unity seems to think so as well. You got to install a new memory allocator in order to do that.
Yep.
And on that classic bombshell, let's cue the music. You can always find us around 9:30 Eastern Time on either Charter Communications, now Xfinity, or whatever the hell it's called this week, and or YouTube are not being ass banjos, and we can get everything up and running swimmingly so. Scream at me. I'm on the social medias, on the Twitters, at the Vinstones, or just the plus Vinstones. Just type in Vinstone in Google. You'll definitely find me. I do my best to get back to anyone who sends me a message or anything, long as it's not herder. And yes, I look forward to all the herders Monday. It will be adorable.
I'm Jordan Svung. You can find me pressing buttons and saying that the results are production ready at the Burning Pool on Twitter, plus Jordan Svung on the Google+.
And I am Pedro Mateos. I'm kind of proud of myself that I managed to finish that little meme I just typed into Chat Realm Dynamic before Jordan was done with his spiel. If you would like to follow my not particularly impressive feats, you can do so on Google Plus at plus Pedro Mateos, or less so on Twitter at unaccounted4.
He graduated from Mavis Bacon, teaches typing.
It is brilliant. Did we learn anything this week? I mean, it seems like maybe we learned something. Maybe exploding video cards.
No.
Totally. Flash that V-BIOS. Do it.
Do it.
Put a video camera on it.
YOLO.
Listen, if you have a toaster that can support a V-BIOS, flash an RX 580 BIOS on there. I'm sure
Do it.
It will output something. Something.
And I saw somebody posted a picture, I think, in like the Linux group on G Plus of a fucking icebox, a refrigerator, installing Windows 10 because it had auto updates.
Yeah.
You know what? I believe that the Internet of Shit is a thing.
The Internet of Shit is a thing, and here's something I want to say to all of my developer buddies. If you're using Windows Embedded for a project, something has went horribly wrong in your life.
You need to take a step back and realize exactly when you decided that installing Windows on an embedded device was a good idea. Even
Why do you
Microsoft
need
realized that
an
was a
operating
bad
system
idea.
on an ice maker? And of course, when you buy it a year later, they're going to drop support for it because fuck you and fuck consumers. And see, 5 dudes.